Wildcard weekend is almost here. The Houston Texans set to host the Los Angeles Chargers in the 4-5 matchup. One of the closest games when it comes to a spread standpoint. The Chargers, about a field goal favorite depending on where all you look. But it's always a fun exercise when you get into these big playoff matchups to go through, take a look at each of the position groups and a little bit more of each of these teams and just see kind of where our feel is on who has the advantage in each of these various position groups. So, without further ado, let's go through the offensive side, and we'll include special teams in this portion of the conversation. The Texans, the Chargers, whoever is winning each of these categories will get a check mark on each side. Let's start with the running backs on this one. J.K. Dobbins has been really good for the Chargers this year. He also has a solid backup in Gus Edwards. They haven't run the ball exceptionally well, but they can get tough yards when they need to get tough yards. 3rd and 1, I trust the Chargers are going to be able to get those yards, but they can get slowed down a little bit on early downs and put the Chargers passing attack in some precarious positions. Obviously, the Houston Texans have Joe Mixon. He's a Pro Bowler. Probably would have had an even more impressive season if he hadn't missed some time due to injury. I'm actually going to put a check mark on both sides because both of these teams can use the rushing attack exactly like they need to use the rushing attack, exactly how they have to use the rushing attack. I don't know that either team wants to necessarily lean on it, nor do they believe that their attack is going to be able to carry them the whole way through. But from time to time, Joe Mixon can take over a game. The Chargers have had some impressive rushing attacks where Dobbins and company have gotten it going on the ground. Each side's getting a check mark in the running back category. Wide receivers / tight ends, so really just your pass catchers on this one. And it really is a two-man show. It's Ladd McConkey over here on the Chargers side. It's Nico Collins over here on the Texans side, and then you're sort of just filling it in from there. Quentin Johnston is a nice player over on the Chargers. He's a little banged up heading into this one. They're not going to have Joshua Palmer, who's one of their deep threats in this matchup. And then the Texans have Deontay Johnson playing in his second game with the Texans, and then Robert Woods, Xavier Hutchinson, and John Mechie, who they've had all season long and have produced minimal results for this team. McConkey is really darn good, but Nico Collins is better. I'm going to go ahead and give both sides a check mark. There's no tight end advantage on either side. Disley, they started using him a little bit more in the middle of the season over in the LA side. And then Dalton Schultz, Cade Stover, and company, it's been very okay for most of the year. So far, a check mark apiece for these teams. Let's go to the offensive line. Okay, the Texans' offensive line has a new offensive line look to it. Laramie Tunsil's playing left tackle. Titus Howard at left guard. He's done that for a few games now and produced better results than most of the left guards the Texans have played this season. Jarrett Patterson's really solid with the pass blocking at the center spot. And then Blake Fisher's had a little trial by fire. He's been okay, though DeMeco Ryans touted the nastiness of Fisher showing up this week on tape when he looked back at that Titans performance. And then Juice Scruggs played most of that game there at the right guard spot. It's his first time at right guard. It's his 3rd position this year. So that combination for the Texans is what you're going to see in the playoff game. I feel okay about it. It's the best 5 guys on the team. I don't know if they're exactly in the best 5 spots, but those are the best 5 offensive linemen that the Texans have. That's what they're going to run out there. They're not getting a check mark for this, though. The offensive line performance this year by the Texans has mostly been bad to putrid. You think about the Green Bay game where they were awful and couldn't protect C.J. Stroud. The very next week, they allowed even more quarterback pressure. You think about the Jets game. That was an awful one as well. Now, the Chargers, they got some dudes over there, okay? 2 of the best tackles in football this year. Rashawn Slater, according to Pro Football Focus, he is the best tackle in the AFC. So that's going to get the Chargers a check mark. Joe Alt, their rookie right tackle who played college football with Blake Fisher, was teammates with Fisher, played left tackle after Fisher got hurt, and then left tackle and right tackle with Alt at left tackle and Fisher at right tackle. Alt has been really good. He's a top 20 offensive lineman, according to Pro Football Focus, and he's turning in one of the 10 best rookie seasons by an offensive tackle in the past 4 seasons. You'd think that would go ahead and get the Chargers a second check mark for this one. it's not going to get the Chargers a second check mark for this one because their interior offensive line has been pretty shaky. Trey Pipkins, their right guard, their left guard, Zion Johnson, who was drafted after Kenyon Green in the first round a few years ago out of Boston College, and Bradley Bozeman, their center, they've been pretty shaky. They've had some issues with pass blocking and run blocking. So the interior shakiness of the Chargers, it doesn't quite match the interior shakiness of the Houston Texans, but the shakiness is there to the point where they're not getting an additional check mark over there on the offensive line. Special teams, they make field goals at a higher percentage than the Texans do the Chargers. The Texans have better coverage, better punt units. We're going to go ahead and go special teams with a check for each side. That brings us to the quarterbacks. Okay, the quarterbacks in this one. Justin Herbert, really impressive season, very efficient with the football, hasn't thrown many interceptions, has the lowest interception percentage in all of football. Just 3 interceptions this season from Justin Herbert, and he's had some really impressive performances. But Justin Herbert has primarily had his success against non-top scoring defenses. Okay, so scoring defenses outside, say, the top 16. So bottom half of the league when it comes to scoring defenses. Against defenses in the top half of defensive scoring. Okay, so defenses in the top half of scoring defense, Herbert averages 225 yards passing and averages a touchdown a game. Like, that's it. He is not some massive supernova when there's actually pretty good defenses on the field. He's only beat 2 top 16 scoring defenses this year. That was the Denver Broncos twice. He lost to the Chiefs. He lost to the Ravens. He lost to the Buccaneers. He lost to the Cardinals. He lost to the Ravens, if I hadn't said them yet, or the Steelers. Yeah, only 2 wins, both of them against the Broncos, against top scoring defenses. 225 yards a game against top half scoring defenses. Not great for Justin Herbert. The Texans are 14th in scoring defense. That's a top half scoring defense. So not the best performances, but Herbert's efficiency gets him a check. He doesn't make mistakes. Even with unimpressive passing totals against top defenses, he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, and he doesn't make mistakes with the football. He'll take what's there, live to fight another day, trust the defense to take care of their business. Let's talk about C.J. Stroud. In that same situation, C.J. Stroud, not very good himself. Turns out it's really hard to play well against top defenses. Top half of the league scoring defenses. Mind you, the Chargers have the number 1 scoring defense in all of football. Top half of the league scoring defenses. C.J. Stroud, only a couple of victories, averages over an interception per game, under a touchdown per game, and I think it's 222 yards per game against top half scoring defenses. So not great from C.J. Stroud either. He is not as efficient with the football, but Stroud still possesses that supernova quality, still has the ability to go absolutely insane, put Superman's cape on, overcome all the issues that exist with his teammates. And so for that reason, the chances of the cape going on, I'm going to go ahead and give the Texans a check mark at quarterback. So the only big advantage when you look at the offenses, comparing them to each other, the Chargers have the offensive line advantage because their tackle play has been excellent. So the Chargers with 5 check marks, the Texans with 4 check marks in these categories. Let's get you ready for the defensive side and the coaching staff advantage, and we'll add up the check marks here at the end. Hey, before I get you over to the defense, I want to let you know, into the video, tell you how to get the free $50 from Prize Picks. We'll put a Prize Picks entry together as well. Prize Picks, the best and easiest way to play daily fantasy. Regular season's over. Daily fantasy's not. Stay tuned till the end. Offense versus offense with the Texans and the Chargers. Now defense versus defense. You see the carryover check marks from the offensive side. Let's go to where the Texans have a very, very clear advantage over the Chargers. I'm going to give the Texans 2 check marks at cornerback. They've got an all-pro and an all-rookie cornerback at their starting spots, with Kamari Lassiter, the all-rookie player, and Derek Stingley, the all-pro player. The Chargers aren't getting any check marks for their cornerback play. It just isn't quite there for them. So no check marks for them. Derek Stingley should shut down whoever he's going against, even when he maybe pops inside to defend Ladd McConkey, the top wide receiver for the Chargers. Kamari Lassiter, you trust him if he's inside against McConkey. If he's outside against anybody else, you trust him as well. A little shaky when you start to think about Jeff Okudah or Miles Bryant having to play, but hopefully they don't become a big issue. But 2 check marks right there for the Texans at the cornerback spot. Let's stay in the secondary. Man, this one's going to be a big check mark for the Chargers. It's a safety that the Chargers have in Derwin James that is playing some of the best safety of anybody in the league right now. I've been very critical of Derwin James in the past. His injury history has kept him from being constantly elite, but he's been healthy and excellent for Jim Harbaugh's crew this year. And they use him in a variety of ways. They may use him on Nico Collins to help out there. They're going to use him as a blitzer. They'll use him near the line of scrimmage. He can play anywhere and everywhere. And though Kalen Bullock, yes, Bullock, not Bullock, he made the name change. Though Kalen Bullock has been really good as a rookie, he's not quite Derwin James and Eric Murray's issues, some of the other safety mishaps that the Texans have had. That keeps them from getting a check mark at the safety spot. So the secondary still leans Texans' way, but the safety spot is going to go to the Chargers. At linebacker, I'm going to put the edge rushers down there with the defensive linemen. So I'm going to go linebacker check mark for the Houston Texans. They have Azeez Al-Shaair, Christian Harris, and Henry To'oTo'o available at their disposal for the very first time, all healthy, all ready to play. That has to make DeMeco Ryans very excited. The Chargers put a lot of 2 tight end looks, bigger packages on the field, which should allow the Texans to play a lot of their linebackers against those looks. Keep them out of that nickel look that they do where they put an extra DB in, take a linebacker off the field. If the Chargers are putting big guys on the field, the Texans can keep their big guys on the field as well, run some of their 3 linebacker looks and unleash hell with Azeez Al-Shaair, Christian Harris's athleticism, and Henry To'oTo'o's smarts between the ear. Excited to see what that linebacking room looks like in the rotation and who's on the field with who and who do they trust in certain situations, because they will have to be excellent at the linebacker spot to affect things. Denzel Perryman, the linebacker to note for the Chargers. Nothing else really to note from the linebackers. And again, when you look at the depth chart, outside linebacker, yada, yada, that's an edge rusher. We're going to put them with the defensive line. So when we talk about them, we'll talk about the coaching staff last. So let's go to the defensive line. Well, right away, I'm going to go ahead and put 2 check marks over here for the Houston Texans. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter alone deserve a check mark each. And then when you factor in the depth like Derek Barnett and Denico Autry off the edges and the impressiveness of the inside that the Texans have had at different times, Tim Settle, Mario Edwards, Foley Fatukasi, who's finally healthy again playing at the defensive tackle spot. When you factor all that in, the Texans have a excellent defensive line. It's one of the best units in all of football, led by those super impressive edge rushers and Anderson and Hunter. Over 20 combined sacks between those 2 players. They have been fantastic this season. Right away, 2 check marks for the Texans on that side. You're going to get at least 1 check mark over here from the Chargers. They have a lot of guys that they can throw at you from an edge rushing standpoint. You know the names, Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. You know how impressive they have been over their careers. Bosa nearly a decade in this league, Mack over a decade now in this league, and each of them have had pretty solid seasons. Took pay cuts to stick on the Chargers together with some of those other players that the Chargers have from a pass rush standpoint. It's a very good group of pass rushers led by those 2 veterans, but it's not actually led in statistical excellence by those 2 veterans. Another veteran has the same amount of sacks as Khalil Mack. That's Bud Dupree. If you remember him, he bounced around the league a little bit. He's been a Steeler. He's been a Titan. He's been a Falcon. Now he's on the Chargers. And Dupree has 6 sacks on the season, the same as Mack. Bosa has 5 on the season. And he's had a really nice season rushing the passer for the Chargers. So close to a second check mark here. And I almost went with the second check mark because one of my favorite 2023 draft picks is on the Chargers. One of the players that I loved in the 2023 NFL draft out of USC was defensive lineman, outside linebacker, again, pass rusher is what I call him. Edge rusher is what I call him. Edge rusher out of USC. Stay with me here. I've been practicing the name. Tuli Tuipulotu. Tui Tuipulotu has been fantastic for the Chargers. He has 8.5 sacks to lead the Chargers. He stepped up in games where Mac hasn't been playing. He is really quick. He cuts through offensive lines. He's an impressive player. It's not quite as good over there on the Chargers defensive line and edge rush standpoint as the Texans, so I'm having a hard time giving them that second check. I will say former Texas standout Poona Ford played for the Seahawks previously. He's in the interior for that Chargers defensive line. He's a nice player at the defensive tackle spot, but we're going to go 2 check marks for the defensive line for the Texans, just 1 for the Chargers. I mean, when you factor in all the 4 Chargers pass rushers that we talked about, 6 for Mack and Bud Dupree, that's 12. You add in 5 for Bosa. You add in the second-year kid out of USC, whose name I'm going to try one more time, Tuipulotu, okay? You add that in, and it almost just barely gets ahead of what Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter did combined. So 2 for the Texans, 1 for the Chargers. And let's go down to CS here. Now, CS used to be HC when I did this experiment in the past, but I think the coaching staff as a whole is important to think about and talk about and understand what is important beyond just the head coach in this one. Look, DeMeco Ryans and Jim Harbaugh have both got to be excellent. Both of them have had trouble with the challenge flag this year. Harbaugh hadn't won any this year. DeMeco Ryans in his 2-year NFL head coach career is 2-4 with the challenge flag. So going to need to be on your P's and Q's with that. DeMeco Ryans, you got to avoid some of that herky-jerky end of half stop-start stuff that we've seen from time to time. Most of the time, the Texans know exactly what they're doing, and they put the pedal to the metal and try to put points on the board right before halftime. We've seen sometimes them not go fast, and they've made some mistakes, and it's been not so hot at the end of halves. Sometimes that's got to be excellent. I trust Jim Harbaugh to have the team ready and excited to play. I trust DeMeco Ryans to have his team ready back at home to bounce back from the Baltimore beatdown here in this playoff matchup. But then you start thinking about the coordinators. Harbaugh doesn't call the plays for the offense or the defense. That's Greg Roman over on offense, and he is much better than Bobby Slowick. You factor in Harbaugh's experience as well. Jesse Minter, their defensive play caller, fantastic. DeMeco Ryans, very good at calling defense, and I'm going to give the Texans 1 check mark because DeMeco is so good at calling defense, but a big advantage offensively when you think about what Harbaugh and his experience brings to the table and what Greg Roman can do with an offense and what Bobby Slowick hasn't been able to do with an offense. So 4 left over from the offensive side for the Texans. They're going to add another 6 here to give them 10 check marks total in this one. Got to make sure I did my math there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. So 10 total for the Texans. The Chargers adding another 4 here because they do not have many defensive advantages. That gets them to 9. Now, advantages on the coaching staff, tied at the quarterback spot, and then the edge rushers going to the Texans. It's a pretty tough one to call. It's why these teams are so close together. 10 check marks for the Texans in the exercise, 9 for the Chargers. So have you lean in Texans? Did I convince you with the check mark exercise that the Texans are the more talented team and more equipped to win this football game? Well, let me know in the comment section down below on your way down there. Throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed to the channel. So much fun stuff coming as long as this playoff run goes, and nobody's going to have you covered better this offseason than myself, my colleague Landry Locker from the Locker Room. We do the SNL channel. That link's in the description down below as well if you'd like to check that out. I promised the folks a Prize Picks entry at the end. You'll want to stay till the end for that, as well as a little blooper that I had when I was putting this video together. You'll want to stay to the very end for that one. So appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Playoff football is here, and I can't wait until we talk Texans again soon. Let's put a Prize Picks entry together. We've had a pretty good hit rate on these. Prize Picks is the best and easiest way to play daily fantasy. You're just predicting more or less on given stats, like more passing yards for this player, less receiving yards for that player. You put it together in an entry, and it is as simple as that. You play your first $5, you're going to get $50 when you use my code STOOTS, S-T-O-O-T-S, when you get signed up. That's STOOTS, S-T-O-O-T-S. The link in the description down below will help you out. Where to find it should autofill that code for you. If not, S-T-O-O-T-S. Let's put a entry together. And as you see on Prize Picks, man, so many different sports, from basketball to hockey, and of course, football. I like to use a little calendar, get us the game that we are all going to be watching, the Texans and the Chargers. Right away, I'm going to rushing and receiving touchdowns. I believe Nico Collins is getting into the end zone, and I believe Ladd McConkey is getting into the end zone. And that right there would be a pretty decent one for us. Like, that's it. You know, we could do just those two guys, $5. Let's see what $5 would turn into for us there. Yeah, $5 to over $20 return if Nico Collins and Ladd McConkey just get in the end zone. But let's make it a little bit more exciting here. Field goals made as a combo. Dicker the kicker, Kaimi Fairbairn, two really tough defenses, two offenses that have had some moments where they can't quite move the football. They have to settle. 3.5 field goals made between Dicker the kicker and Kaimi Fairbairn. You see 2 each. More for that. And that turns us into 5 timesing our entry. Now, you could add a whole bunch of other stuff. You can maybe go to one of the other games and add a touchdown. It could be across multiple games, multiple teams. But these 3 right here, going to be good enough for us. You know what? We're going to go power play. We hit all of these, and we're going to 8 times our entry. You can do the flex play, hit 2 of them, and still make a little, but we're going with the power play on this one. That's how simple it is to put in a Prize Picks lineup, and it is so much fun and so easy to play Prize Picks. And if you love basketball or hockey or college football is even available there for you. And Prize Picks always has the fun things going on for you, like discounts on Tuesday on different predicted stats. Man, it's a blast. It's so easy to use. It's so much fun. And you're going to get $50 when you play your first 5. You don't even have to win that first entry, but I feel pretty good about our entry. You might even win that one and get the $50 and use the code STOOTS when you get signed up, STOOTS. Link in the description down below. What's better than that? Nothing. Prize Picks is the best and easiest way to play daily fantasy. Appreciate you supporting them. Appreciate you watching the video as well. Oh, yeah, I promised you a blooper. Stay tuned. Tui Pulotu. Tui Pulotu. Tui Pulotu. Tui Pulotu. Tui Pulotu. Tui Pulotu. Tuli Pulotu. Tuli Pulotu. Tuli Pulotu. We'll figure it out.